everybody, my name is Adam, and thank you so much for joining me for the very first video from the Nerd Hoard. We're a new YouTube channel that's dedicated to all things from the world of superhero collectibles. We're talking comic books, action figures, games, anything you can think of from the incredible world of superheroes and comic books. That's what we're going to be covering on this channel. So thank you so much for joining me for this first video, and I'm really excited to start digging into it. So for this particular video, I wanted to talk about something very near and dear to my nerdy heart, the top 10 spec comic books to get into. So what do I mean by spec comic books? Essentially, I'm talking about comic books that have the potential to be extremely valuable. And we've just seen recently Disney's D23, where they talk about a lot of things happening in the world of superheroes. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about what I think are 10 really great comic books to pick up now, possibly on the cheap, that are going to be worth something in the near future. So let's start down and go through the whole list of top 10 spec comics to invest in. Number 1, or number 10 on my list, is Savage Sword of Conan number 1. Now, also on this list, I would list the Conan the Barbarian number 1 from 1977. Now, this is an amazing comic to get into right now. I have a copy of Conan number 1 as well. And this particular comic is amazing because Netflix is actually announced that they have optioned Conan and are planning to produce a television show based on everyone's favorite barbarian. So this is going to be a pretty sweet book to pick up if you manage to get the chance, because chances are we're going to see this and Conan number 1 explode in value with Netflix. And this is still an undervalued book that you can pick up for a reasonable price. So get your hands on this now, and hopefully a Conan show is going to be awesome sauce, because they haven't really done a great job of bringing Conan to life on the big and small screen. So other than, of course, Arnold's turn as Conan, that was awesome, but haven't really seen anything in recent years. So hopefully this is going to be awesome. This would be a great book to pick up. Number 2 on my list is Punisher 218. And if you're not familiar with this book, this is sort of a book that flew under the radar for a while. There's also Punisher 219. This is the first cameo appearance of Punisher as War Machine. And so what essentially happens is that Punisher manages to get his hands on the War Machine armor and manages to kind of end up wreaking havoc and killing a crap ton of people as War Machine. So this is an awesome book to pick up, because the big rumor that's been circulating is that the Punisher will be entering the MCU as War Machine. And if that's the case, this book is going to explode. In fact, a lot of speculators have increased the value of this book because of that rumor. So picking up this 218 or 219, which is the first full appearance, that could be a really good value if we do see the Punisher War Machine enter the MCU. And also, this is just a super cool book. There's also a Hot Toys 6-scale figure based on this character as well. Super cool. I might do a review on that in the future as well, because I picked one up a little while ago. So this is a super sweet spec book to pick up now before it really explodes potentially with some MCU news. All right, number 3 on my list is Something is Killing the Children number 1. This is I believe the 3rd print that I have, and I also have this swanky LCS foil variant as well that they released. But I think this book is going to explode in value as well. These are quite expensive already, But this is a very cool book because it's for sure going to get optioned. Like there's no way this book is not going to get optioned. And just having this book as an investor, as a speculator, is probably a smart move because while it is expensive now, if this does become a film or television series, chances are we can see this book explode even more in value. So definitely recommend picking this one up if you're managed to get your hands. There's all sorts of really cool multiple printings of this, and as I said, I think this is the third or fourth printing. I don't have the first printing, but this is a great book to pick up if you're able to. Another book on my list, and this one's a little bit more of a bit of a gamble, and it'll be interesting to see how this turns out. But you can pick this book up. This is Wonder Man #1. This is the first solo series from him. This isn't the first appearance of Wonder Man, but there is news that Wonder Man is going to be made into a TV series, which is pretty cool. And there was also a lot of talk about Nathan Fillion. There was a bit of a sort of an Easter egg in the MCU that featured Nathan Fillion as Wonder Man. So that's kind of cool too, but there's definitely some buzz around this book. So you could pick up the first appearance, or you can pick up this book. Believe it or not, I found this beautiful copy of this book for $2 in a dollar bin. So you can still kind of sniff around, and you might be able to pick this up on the cheap like I did. But this could potentially be a book, and we're already starting to see it creep up a little bit as a spec book. So this is something that's definitely worth checking out, and you could probably grab this on the cheap. All right, next on my list is Young Avengers #1. Now, this is a really cool book. This was a book that a lot of people, when it first came out years ago, kind of thought was sort of a lame ripoff of the Avengers that was sort of cheesy. But it's actually an amazing read, and really cool characters that have still held up today. And so this is a great book because the next phase of the MCU is likely going to be introducing a younger, new generation, and may borrow a lot from this book, especially because the characters do sort of feed into Kang, which we know is going to be a major villain, and there's also some other characters that have sort of been introduced or have loose tie-ins to the MCU. So this can be a really cool book to pick up. This book's fairly expensive too. You're probably looking at about $100 to pick this up. But if this does become a hot series or movie, or sort of feeds into the next big phase of the MCU, chances are this book's going to be worth even more. So this could be a good investment, and you could probably pick this up for not too bad now that prices are starting to cool a little bit with a recession and just general kind of decline in comic book sales. So I would definitely recommend picking up Young Avengers if you can. Next I wanted to show on my list here is this particular book. This is Uncanny X-Men 120. And this is an amazing book because this is actually the first cameo appearance of Alpha Flight, which, as a Canuck, I am a Canadian. I'm very, very proud to be a big Alpha Flight fan, and this is a very, very cool book. It introduces the first cameo appearance of Alpha Flight. It's considered a cameo, even though they're pretty actively involved in here. X-Men 121 is the kind of considered the first full appearance, but Alpha Flight is just begging to be made into a movie or a TV series, or having some relation to the MCU. So it seems there's no way we're not going to get an Alpha Flight MCU appearance at some point in the future. And this is a pretty reasonably priced. It's a little on the pricey side to pick this book up, but you can still snag it for not too bad, and this book's likely to also increase in value. I also do have an Alpha Flight #1, which I should have brought out to show this video too, but chances are this is definitely going to go up in value as well. So definitely recommend checking that out. Next on my list here is, this is not actually the book I want to show. I want to show Swamp Thing 37, which is the first full appearance of John Constantine. Now, I don't have that book, so I thought I'd show the next best thing, which is my copy of Swamp Thing. This is kind of a rough, beat-up reader copy that a really good friend of mine gave to me. But I just love this book so much, I wanted to show this. But Swamp Thing 37 is the first appearance of John Constantine, and we know they sort of snuck a John Constantine-esque figure into the Netflix Sandman television series. Not actually John Constantine, but sort of their take on that character. But chances are we're going to see something else with John Constantine coming. He's such a cool character, such a integral character. The Keanu Reeves Constantine movie was kind of a bit of a crap fest, in my opinion. Not a great film. Didn't really capture the essence of Constantine, in my opinion. But chances are we're going to see something with Constantine. So you can pick that book. It's a pricey book, which is why I don't have it. Swamp Thing 37. But definitely a cool book to pick up if you're able to, because we haven't seen a cap on that at all. And if Constantine does show up either in a Netflix series or a movie or something coming up, where there's been talk about a Justice League Dark movie that could have Constantine, chances are he is going to explode in popularity, and then you'll see things like Swamp Thing 37. I also have a Hellblazer #1 too, which is the first kind of John Constantine solo series too, which is a really cool book to pick up as well if you do get a chance to. So definitely recommend Swamp Thing 37. The next book I wanted to show here is I am a huge Usagi Yojimbo fan. This is not Usagi Yojimbo's first appearance. This is his first kind of standalone series from the 80s. But we know that there's a Usagi Netflix animated kids series coming out. It looks okay. It's sort of about the descendant of Usagi Yojimbo, not necessarily an actual Usagi version for Netflix. But we could still expect some more, and depending on that, we're likely to see a spike. But I think Usagi is still just a very popular character. The series is still, Stensekai has still producing amazing comic books. Almost 40 some years after it was he first created the character. So chances are we're going to see more from Usagi Yojimbo, both within the Netflix series and just the love that this character gets. So this standalone book, the Albedo 2, which is the first full appearance of Usagi, is out of range for most collectors. We're talking thousands of dollars for a high-grade slabbed copy of that book. But you could still pick this up for not too bad. Believe it or not, I actually got this a couple of years ago before the pandemic for $10, which is just a steal. And it's a pretty good, pretty decent grade as well too. So would definitely recommend picking this up. All right, next I wanted to show a slab on my list. I'm going to try to avoid some glare off this one. This is a Sandman #1. This is I have a 9.4 version of this. But this was a book that was a spec book to snag long before the series even came out, but now it's since exploded in value as well. And just the success of Sandman on Netflix, it was a hugely popular, well-received by critics, well-received by fans, and well-received by just kind of mainstream audiences who didn't even know anything about the Sandman. So chances are this is going to be a very good book to continue to invest in, and I don't think we've seen the ceiling on this either, because it seems likely there's going to be a second season of the Sandman and other maybe even spin-off series too. So if you're able to, you can pick this up. Now, as a weird kind of story about this, I grabbed this from somebody for a couple $100 a few years ago, which was a steal at the time. And it actually had a weird thing called Newton rings. I don't know if you ever heard of this, but it basically looks like an oil spill on the cover. And so that's why he actually gave it to me for pretty cheap. And what I did is I contacted CGC and just said, hey, like, this is a 9.4. It's not, technically impacted by these weird Newton rings. It just looks like an oil spill that happens from the cover pressing in on the inner kind of plastic sleeve. It just looks crappy. No one's gonna buy. It's a 9.4 because the book's in great condition, but no one's gonna pay this price, 9.4 prices, because of this oil spill. I contacted CGC and they sent me free shipping labels, and I was able to get them to re-slab the book 100% for free. So if you ever do run into Newton rings, which I might do a video on in the future, you can get CGC to fix it. It's one of the few things that CGC actually will take responsibility for, in my opinion. So yeah, you might want to check that out. But nonetheless, I sort of digress there. Still worth picking this book up, and if you do have some cash to spare, this book has gone up a lot. I would still recommend picking this up because I don't think we've seen the ceiling on this one just yet. All right. My last book on my list here is a kind of classic blue chip book. This is Amazing Spider-Man ASM number 300. This is the first full appearance of Venom. And this is a great book to pick up now. This is always like, going to be, in some cases, a grail book for people, or just like, it's a book that's always going to retain its value, regardless of how terrible the Venom movies are. It's like one of the most popular characters in the Marvel world, both comic books and films. So we know Venom's always going to be around. But why I have this on my list is because you can pick up this book for a bit cheaper than it's ever been before. Prices have dropped down since the last movie came out, which was pretty terrible. And so you could pick this book up for a lot cheaper than usual, and we may see prices climb back up a little bit. Now, I have a 4.5 copy of this, which I was a bit disappointed to get this back. I was hoping for probably a 6.0. So I was a little bit bummed to get this kind of a crappy grade. But nonetheless, you could also pick up lower grade copies of this book too, and maybe even crack them, get them pressed and cleaned, and resubmit to CGC and take your chances and potentially increase the value. So what I would recommend, and why I have this on my list, is to look for copies of this book that have gone down in prices, and maybe even get your hands on a raw or lower grade copy as well too. That might be kind of cool to pick up, and potentially you could potentially get some decent return on investment for this book. So would definitely include this book on my list, as I think there's a lot of potential, and now's a great time to invest in this book and potentially flip it in the next year or two when hopefully things come back up. So that is my list of my top 10 books that I would look at investing right now, sort of towards in the fall of 2022. Things obviously can change a lot, but those are 10 books that I can see the value just continuing to grow on that. So yeah, that's what I wanted to chat about today. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're interested in this content, this is my sort of first go around with things. Would love to hear what you think. Would love to get you to subscribe and like, just to give YouTube's algorithm a little bit of love, and lots more to come. So thank you so much for joining me, and keep collecting. Bye, everyone.